Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to Feed the Master series, in which I will cover the very last round of the Cracovia Chess Festival. Even though I had white pieces in the round number 8, in round number 9 I am repeating my color, funnily enough. Even though I was a higher rated guy playing this game, usually it's the other way around, so the lower rated guy repeats the color, but I will happily take it, white pieces twice in a row. Other funny thing about this pairing is that I am playing the guy that I played in the previous tournament I played in September of the 2025, so even though it was quite a few months between our game one and the other, in here on YouTube it will be, I believe, around 1 month between the analysis. I played him in the round number 1 of the Polish First League. In here we are meeting in the very last round of the Cracovia Chess Festival. So yeah, the same color too. But if you remember, during that previous encounter of ours, I was somewhat not in the best shape and I played knight f3, withdrew the game within first 20 moves. In here I decided, okay, I am here to battle. Not that often times you can get white pieces twice in a row in the 2 last rounds of the tournament. I need to make use of that. For those reasons I decided to go for the e4. He replied with c6, so we got once more the Caro-Kann. Once more I will playing something new and different because I chose e5, closed variation, advanced variation, after which after bishop f5, h4, h5, I played a somewhat niche move of the bishop g5 first. This is the move that happens plenty of times in this variation, but rather in the later stage of it. The point is that after queen b6, I am hit both here and there, and like, how am I going to react to it, right? So I will not give too many details about the position because it's still a theoretical one. But after bishop d3, that is the main move in here. I am basically inviting my opponent to take either there or there. Obviously taking on b2 would require taking on d3 first, so the craziest lines can occur in here, but I am actually winning as white, I can tell that, so crazy stuff. And I was kind of bluffing my opponent a little bit because I told you at the end of the yesterday's analysis that this was the morning round, therefore not that much time to prepare, and in here it's rather useful to prepare everything till the end if you are white and giving up the rook on the move number 8. But I just knew more or less the dynamics that I need to break through the opponent's king's position with e6 and so on, so I felt alright, he will not go for it, and even if he does, I have 1 hour and 30 minutes to figure out where is the win exactly, so I would do that. But as expected, at this point after queen b6, bishop d3, after takes, he played e6. Other line that he could have chosen was this one, but also he did not go into it. So takes, it is e6, not taking on b2. Now knight d2, inviting furthermore to take this bishop, but my opponent did not do it. And also he did not play this position the most precise way. The general idea of having the bishop here is to try to disrupt the development of the black pieces of the king side, and therefore instead of trying to do that, he should go for the queen side development, and not as in the usual way of playing in this type of structure, meaning queen a6 with the attempt of exchanging and after c4 knight d7, but rather more of the aggressive approach of c5 followed by knight c6, trying to make use of the problems of mine on the pawns in the center, let's say. However, he indeed chose queen a6, knight d7, after which I knew that I should be okay. Knight g2 f3, knight e7, castle knight f5. This position was, let's say, a little bit in my preparation. I knew that I should be better in here, and I knew that thanks to this bishop on g5, the opponent's bishop was limited. Once the knight has moved to f5, this diagonal has opened. Obviously plenty of squares are taken, but one is there for him to grab, let's say, before. Therefore my 3 candidate moves were a3, queen b3 or queen c3, all 3 aimed towards this b4 square, trying to take it over and not allow the bishop to play there, and I chose queen c2, which was not on the my list of mine of the candidate moves. So what happened? I don't know, some glitch in my brain, some, I don't know, maybe I was tired after those 8 rounds. This was the 9th one in the morning, but when calculating this and that, trying to decide what to do, pros and cons and whatever, then after, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, I realized, wait, Queen C2 is the better version of Queen C3 because of something like in the future, like 4 moves ahead. And Queen C3 I thought is better than Queen B3 for some reason. So all of a sudden, well, why didn't I include Queen C2? It's the best out of lot. Let's play it. And only after I played it, obviously, I realized, what have I done? Like, why did I allow this bishop there? I mean, terrible stuff, terrible stuff. Nothing to say really. Bishop b4 obviously happened. One and only surprising thing was that my opponent used quite a lot of time on this move. I would play it basically as the pre-move if I were him, but it doesn't matter that much. What matters is that the bishop is here, and now the life of the opponent is much easier, because let's go back for a second. Why did I, let's say, think about this move? Simply in here, it's quite hard for the opponent to finish development. If he plays like this, I can take him on e7 so that his knight has to go back to f5 square, and maybe in that time I'll figure out some initiative of my own. I was thinking about this type of move. Obviously rook c8 now is, so maybe rook f2 c1 queen c7, something along the c file, or I could have gone for something like b4 a4 b5, trying to create more pressures here, or I could have gone for something like knight g5 maybe, whatever. The point is, my opponent is wasting far too many tempos to just simply finish development, and I am fine. Once he got there, he will be exchanging the bishop most likely for the knight. The knight is not the best in the world because also it has no squares to jump to, but the knight is the knight, the position is closed. I would be rather happy to have it than not have it. On top of that, when I've blundered, I said to myself, okay, I will act like nothing happened, and I will play rook fc1 as I had it planned, let's say, because b3 would be the natural way of playing. You see this move basically 100% of time during this type of structure and variation, with the pawn protecting the pawn, so that after bishop d2, when my knight is unable to take the bishop, when my bishop does not want to take the bishop, I can maybe take with the queen, and then after this there is a variation of here, queen e2 maybe, here, here. So all of a sudden, yes, I sacrificed the pawn, but for a good enough counterplay. Or, okay, maybe I should indeed drop back the bishop. The point is, the pawn is protected. After rook f2 c1, and once he took, well, I will not go back, because why would I do it? I will not take here, because I cannot do it. I will take with the queen and allow this trade. I mean, not trade. I will sacrifice a pawn. For what exactly? I don't know. I did not think it through. The whole also point of this variation, the problem I've encountered once I've blundered and played this queen c2 move, was the fact that I did not know how to react once my initiative dried down, and once both opponents' knights will have the great, amazing outpost there in the center. I did not want to allow this knight from d7 jump to d5, so I started with a4 with the hopes of pushing a5. Knight was faster, he jumped there. In here I played queen b4, firstly solidifying the pawn, maybe then later on pushing it, but knight d5 happened. And this is the moment, guys. I could have taken there, and say, okay, at least I am not a pawn down. But how am I going to play this position? I had no idea. This pawn is a bad one. This outpost is amazing, weak. I mean, no targets for me whatsoever. Terrible position to continue. So I decided to continue with my bluff, to continue with my lying to myself mostly. And I didn't take the pawn. I played queen c5, with the idea that once I will be able to push a5 maybe, and this queen will get somewhat stuck, or maybe even in here it's stuck, and I will take the pawn without exchanging the queens, something along those lines. But my opponent played a very good move of rook c8. Why is it a good one? Because it solidifies the c6 pawn, so if needed, my queen can just simply be kicked away by the move b6, and move b6 as of now would not be possible, right? So that's that. And also after queen b6, I believe I wanted to play a5, allowing the trade, because at least what would have changed is the pawn structure. I was much more happy with this pawn being there than this pawn being here, right? Anyway, after rook c8, I chose a5 to stop b6 from coming, and one more good move from my opponent, king d7. I was trying to not allow him to castle there, but he says, okay, I will not castle at all then, right? So yeah, he just shows that understanding of those positions is very important. I just knew the variation, not that much of the idea, and even though I knew this one idea of not allowing bishop before, I still allowed it. So my coach summed up everything precisely. My prep is fine when it comes to variations and depth, but it's lacking quite a lot of understanding, this human touch. And I agree with him. In here, I just didn't know what to do. The more I looked into this position, the less confident I felt, to be honest. No way to make use of the king being in the center, no way of making use of the queen being stuck on the edge of the board. Maybe I can take the pawn, but endgame will never be okay for me. So all in all, terrible stuff. In the end, I decided to go back with the bishop to free up the g5 square, maybe for the knight to jump to. My opponent chose rook a8. At the time, at first, I was like, wait, what is it? Then I realized that he wants to protect the pawn and play queen b5, but I allowed it anyway because I didn't see the follow-up, to be honest. I played g3 move so that my knight is finally free to jump wherever he wants, and he wants to go to g5. I had to protect the pawn, but queen b5 it is. Knight g5, b6, very good, very important move. As of now, I was really unsure whether it's a good position and a good idea of me to go into this, because even considering this position as a static one, I believe this pawn mass on the queen side is much more important than the f pawn that I took. And on top of that, after this, I'm hit there, and then here, here, like all the forks in the world, so I'm basically losing. The other type of scenario happens when I take here, because at least my pawn is protected, but only for now. b5 kills my dream of holding the position, right? So all in all, I had to go away with my queen to a3, and once more, very good move, queen b3. Just not giving me any rest whatsoever, not allowing me to just escape. The point is that as long as I keep the queen here, the pawn cannot be taken because I have queen d6 check, and I'm entering with some maybe dangerous attack, or maybe not. No, should be dangerous. After queen b3, if I now once more go into this variation, after takes and then rook f8, I'm hit there, and then there. Every fork once more is possible. For those reasons, after queen b3, I'm already in a very tough situation. What I saw is that I had the possibility of exchanging the queens and then admitting that I have misplayed this and I want to just simply go to take this pawn. But because this pawn is attacked, I cannot do it immediately. Because I jumped right there, I don't want to go back, but I would have to go back to protect this pawn, to allow myself for this maneuver. But if I will be able to draw this game, it would be, you know, the dream come true. But I didn't want to settle down for it. Also because my opponent at this point, after playing queen b3, had, if I am not mistaken, less than 5 minutes with 18 moves to go. And I had plenty more. So even though I knew that I am basically signing off the result that I should be losing, I chose crazy move a takes b6. Why is it crazy? Because at the first glance, the easiest way of playing for the opponent would be to take. And this is just simply very bad. There is no way to get to this pawn because the a file has opened, so I don't have this rook lift I would then have of rook a3, rook b3, for example. So what was my idea after AB? My idea was to take on a8. And after takes, I have gotten myself 2 rooks for a queen, so maybe I'm okay. But I should not be okay, because after queen b2, I'm losing additional pawn. I am hit there with the bishop having nowhere to go to, and being forced to protect the queen, the rook, sorry. This pawn is going towards the queen. This pawn is weak. Should be simply collapsing. However, I was thinking, okay, maybe I will scare him away of some kind, because here, and I spotted from the distance that after knight f7, I have the idea of rook d8, king e7, rook c7. So if he pushes the pawn, all of a sudden I am indeed checkmating, funnily enough. And without too much time on the clock, and as I've said, he had less than 5 minutes, figuring out whether or not I am bluffing or not, and is there a checkmate or is there not, was not that easy, I guess. In here, I believe the most obvious way of trying to escape would be to play c5 to create a space for the king. And if needed, the king maybe could have been running away like king c6, d5, e4, d3 if needed, right, or wherever. So there would not be any checkmate. And if so, he's fine. But taking this decision making, that decision was not easy for sure. So after a b6, he chose good enough, but not as crazy line of queen takes a3. I took, he took, I played rook a1 anyway. I did not care about the c4 pawn yet, because I still wanted to feel at least a glimpse of the activity. What's bad about it is that after knight d4, I am as of now 2 pawns down. I cannot even take this one because of some forks, or at least that's what I thought so, but I forgot about this rook, because in most of my variations I included this scenario, and then indeed after that the rook is there not protecting this one, so I cannot be that good. Yes, I am still hitting the rook, and after the rook hits me I go back, I protect, but one variation, exemplary one, would be even to play rook a8, and now with this pawn mass it should be easily winning for the opponent. For those reasons, instead of pushing through with the check, pushing through with the take, I played the somewhat prophylactic move king g2. Funnily enough, I had the time to do it even though being 2 pawns down. And my opponent chose a forcing approach, attacked my rook, I went away, attacked my knight, I took, he took, I went away. Then he tried to regroup with knight b2 c7, I took, rook a8. And once you think about this position, bishop c1, I was trying to close down the first rank and protect the b2 pawn. What's the idea for white? Try to spend some time in here, and if possible, pause the video and think of any idea that you would have for white. Because it's not that easy to come up with any. Opposition's opponent is so compact, this knight is standing there forever and making my life miserable, controlling all the center squares, everything around it. I mean, what is there for me, right? So basically the only idea I had, and thankfully it was a good one, was the one connected with the fact that I have the majority of the pawns on the king side. So I decided, okay, let's just play f3, g4, h5, and try to, you know, push the h pawn or something. So I played f3, rook a1 and g4. And apparently already as of now, it's not that easy for black to win the game. It's not that apparent that they are winning. So it was okay decision. Computer says that f3 was fine, and my opponent should have gone for something like f5 and then e5, or e5 and then allowing me this, but something in exchange would have happened. Like, I'm not really that sure what's the best approach in here for black, even though it's been quite a while after the game. During it, I had no idea what's going on for either side. I just knew, okay, let's just create a passed pawn. And for my opponent, it was 2. It's move number 32, 33. We have like 1 to 3 minutes on the clock. I mean, crazy stuff will be happening in the short future. So here, f5, knight f2, hitting the rook, knight d6. I went away. Now he played knight b4. I did not control it, guys. After rook c3, if knight a2 would be working, I would be losing. Funnily enough, it does not work because I have rook a3, pinning the knight to the rook, so that if the knight takes, I take the rook. If the rook takes, I take the knight, and all of a sudden I'm kind of surviving. So it was just pure luck, nothing I have calculated beforehand. Therefore, my opponent just simply repeated the moves once more, then he took on g4, then he repeated the moves once more because I have no other moves to make, I have to protect the bishop. And as of now, he allowed himself with this repetition to cross the 40th move mark, so we are after the time control. Additional half an hour was added, and he could have thought about, okay, how am I going to be winning this, right? Apparently it's not that easy to win because my idea was a very good one, creating this h-pawn passer. And my opponent played the best moves, but I replied with the best ones too, and it's a fight. It's a fight, guys, all of a sudden. He played rook a4, trying to hit both my pawns on the fourth rank. I played king h3, not g3, allowing the knight from d6 to check me, but rather h3, because I was not scared about this variation. I can simply take, and after knight f5, knight g4, and you know, pawn is there, even two of them, so I'm fine. So knight f6 happened, putting more pressure. Now I took. Pushing would be a mistake. I'm closing down the bishop. I am leaving myself with this pawn behind. So after this, this and that, there are no more knight g4 possibilities. So it would be a bad decision. I had to take. I had to clear up the way for the h-pawn. Knight f5 happened, hitting my pawn. And since the g4 square is taken, I have to play bishop g5, but I am happy about it. Knight h5 happens, knight g4. So yeah, the pawn is protected, the pieces are somewhat active, and opponent's advantages of c and e pawns are in no use yet, so I'm fine. On top of that, my opponent felt like has no clue how to continue because he gave a check, I went away, he went back, I went back, so he has to find another plan. He chose rook d4, trying to enter through the d file with some checks perhaps, but it gave me the time to basically give him a fork and take a pawn. And since nothing that my opponent did in the last 10 to 15 moves felt like genius-wise, let's say brilliant-wise, I felt like my opponent may be slipping away with the, you know, this game being the last one of the tournament, the 9 front, long game, long fight, some untaken opportunities and whatnot. But he was preparing something crazy against me, and I did not expect it, to be honest, because at this point I felt like I have the h-pawn, I have a right king, I have taken the pawn on c6, what is even going on? He gave me a check, I could have gone down, but I felt like, wait, if I go up, I'm, what, like winning? Because, you know, he has to go away with the knight. I then give a check. He cannot go here, 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 and there. So he has to go either there or there. And I have the forks. The forks. Everywhere. And I'm winning. What is happening? What's happening is knight f6 check. This is the brilliancy. I told you, well, my opponent does not do any brilliancy. This is it. He was trying to set me up for this. You know, put me to sleep, give me the pawn, give me the confidence, and then bam. What's the point? The point is that if I accept the knight, the fork is happening, and I am down on material quite heavily. Not sure if I can survive this. And if I go here, because it's the only other, let's say, legal move, knight goes to d5, and if I go back, then knight goes to e3. So basically this knight has transported itself to d5, allowing this knight e3 fork. And if I go here there, I mean, I'm basically standing in a checkmate in the middle of the board with both knights protecting everything with the king, with the rook. And I really couldn't figure out whether I will get checkmated or not. I really didn't know. It felt like it. Computer says, no, you're fine, but I didn't feel fine at all. So a very, very out of the blue move, very good one. And all of a sudden I have to like fight for my life because I told you, I did not know if my king will survive there. So I accepted the knight, allowed the fork. And one other thing, due to the confusion that my opponent caused me the move before, in here I've calculated the line obviously before taking on f6, and I thought to myself, okay, now I play king g5. And once I took and he gave me a check, I played king f4. And I was like, what am I doing? I've calculated other move and I've played the other. What's going on with my mind, you know? So yeah, crazy game so far, and it's not the end of craziness. Obviously, the point of king g5 would be to be closer to the pawn and allow my knight to cover the checks through the g-file if they will happen like it and so on. I don't know, crazy stuff. One thing I know I did not like was the fact that after this and check, I cannot cover because of knight e3. Oh no, I can do it. So maybe I'm lying to you guys. I don't remember. But even though there was something I did not like about this move, there was something I did not like about this one even more. And I believe this was exactly the way that the game played out, because after takes, knight e5, rook h3, I cannot push the pawn. With the king on g5, I would be able to do that, right? So I felt like I have wasted tempo due to this, I don't know, yet another brain fog in this game. And similarly to the opening phase, I did not want to show my weakness and allow my opponent to think that it was a mistake. And even though king g5 indeed in here is still the best, trying to make this pawn push work, I decided no, I will not play it. I will need to think of something else, and I chose knight f3. Basically going back with the knight from a good outpost just to protect the pawn. The pawn is still unable to push. So mistake after mistake after mistake. I mean, what can you say? I am too stubborn at times at the chessboard. King d5 happened, nothing crazy, but you know, making the king's position better. Bishop c3, I went back. I wanted to have everything protected there, and maybe finally after b5, king g4, attack here, protect here and there and push it, right? So after rook h1, h5, knight e3 check, king g5, I believe my opponent did not play it the best way possible because he chose knight f5. I believe one of his idea for a win should be about preparing at some point maybe e5 move, trying to block my bishop. I'm not expert in that though, because basically at this point still everything wins. The question is only how exactly. So if my opponent had an idea what to do, okay, I will, you know, allow him to have it, right? King g6 happened. I want to place my knight to g5, block the g file, and then set up some h-pawn push if opponent will allow me to do that, or if I will allow myself to do it. King e4 happened. I gave a check, king f4, and I felt like it's the wrong direction for the opponent because he is not going to get the h5 pawn. Come on. I gave him a check, and after knight g4, I simply played knight e4, and after he would take, I would give the fork, and you should expect it with the knight being so closed and with the king being so limited in space, let's say. So his whole idea of going here, here and there was rather missed. It was not a good one. On top of that, already in here, it's quite hard for him to find a solution. So you can debate whether or not knight f5 was a beginning of the bad plan because he wanted to cover h6 square and go with the king, or knight f5 maybe was still fine, but now he misplayed it, right? How should he play it though? I'm not that sure, to be honest. But yeah, it was also not my, let's say, time to think about it. I just wanted to, you know, push the pawn and pray and hope. King e4 here happened. Knight e4 and forking the king, so he had to go away. I gave a check, he went back, I went back, repetition once more. My opponent now chose the different move, rook h2, hitting the bishop, but I have a check in between man. Obviously, I could have tried bishop g5, and I was briefly considering it, because after takes, after the push, basically I believe the only choice for black would be to give up the knight. And yes, I know how to checkmate with the bishop and the knight, but obviously we would not get such position. I was really unsure whether or not I will be able to catch all black pawns, and if I will not be able to do that with two pieces, and maybe I will have to sacrifice one of them, I do not want to defend the position of like knight versus rook or bishop versus rook. I have decided that I will go for knight f6 check in here, and if he goes away, I will just play bishop c3. Yes, I am kind of delaying myself from pushing h-pawn, but at the same time I spotted the idea that since the knight is well placed and everything is like well protected in a sense, my king might get active and maybe I will get the e-pawn or something. So this was my idea. On top of that, my opponent in here finally made a blunder And because I say finally because this whole game looked as if he was better player than myself, seeing much more stuff than me. He played king f4. All right, so what is this blunder? Like, how is this king being blundering anything? Well, I have the trick of bishop e5, king e5, knight g4, king f4, knight h2, and I'm getting the rook. So at first I got the euphoric state. Yes, blunder, finally I will draw the game. But then if you think about it, is this that easy to draw? I mean, usually having an outside passer helps. Usually the knights are terrible defenders against those pawns, but it's usually. In here specifically, it's a bad scenario for me, because even though I have the outside passer, the knight will happily sacrifice itself for it, and once I would push it, then all of a sudden this pawn is rather fast and I have to play like this to stop it. And even if I do, now the problem was that my king is too much, let's say, of a outside position, right? So it's not working as I would like it to. So at first I was like, yay, this is the trick. And then I thought, is this trick going into a losing endgame? Come on, what are the chances, right? Thankfully it's not. Thankfully it's indeed working, but I had to figure it out here, because if I would not find a drawing possibility at this very moment, I should not go into the variation. Because what's the point of having the exchange back if you are going into a losing endgame? I would much rather not have this exchange back, but still put up a fight, right? So yeah, this was my task in here. Little time, huge pressure, but I went for it. I went for it because at the end I saw that after here takes, check, here takes e5, I have the idea of the deflection. I want to deflect the knight from protecting the h6 square so that my pawn won't and can push it further. And after knight f1, e4, I found knight e3. With the idea that if he takes with the knight, I push, push, push. And there is no way to stop it, because as we've said, knights are very, very bad fighting against the pawn, because one idea that would occur on the board and would exist if the pawn was not on the edge of the board would be to play here, here, and then, you know, like here to fork. But I mean, the board has ended, right? And if he takes with the king, I can take his knight and then push it too, because his pawn is at least temporarily blocked with the king. However, even though idea was right, I found the right idea, I did not find the right execution, because guys, at this moment I could have played b4 move, pushing my opponent in nearly the Zugzwang type of scenario, because he has no good move. If he now pushes e3, I do the same, but with taking the pawn, I'm winning the game. And what is the move that he can like waste? Where can he go? King e5, trying to protect here and there or wherever. Knight e3 it is. Here, here. I'm winning, right? So the only way for him to draw this game would be to give me a check, with the idea that once I go here, he checks me again. And once I would go there to avoid checks, he would be able to push, because after this, this and that, my king is on the wrong square, so there is the fork. And if I would go there, he can go back, protect this square too, and I have no way to, let's say, advance. But I would be the one pushing for a win. With knight e3, it's not that clear that I'm even okay. And I spotted this. I just was so excited about the idea itself that I did not think of any other execution of it. But I knew that in here I am in danger. So after this and that, I offered a draw immediately, which was immediately accepted. This, you know, this frustration acceptance. Like, oh, my opponent was like frustrated that he didn't win. Once he knew that in here his winning chances are slim, he just agreed to a draw. But he has some winning chances, guys. And I saw this because after king d3, here, 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 I am promoting first, he promotes second, but I don't have any good check. My king is cut off. My pawn will be attacked heavily from this way or the other or whatever. I would need to defend this queen's endgame for God knows how long. And I was like, I cannot allow it. I need to offer a draw. And I did that in the very best moment. In here, my opponent agreed to it. Live board have some few more moves which are just not true. They did not happen. So yeah, I saved the game. I saved the game even though I was not supposed to, I guess, in my, let's say, state and with my overall level. One more idea that I would like to tell you guys is about knight e3, h6, knight g2 move. And then apparently I am also the one under pressure in a sense, because once the promotion is there, I mean, I have difficulties to continue, so I would have to give the perpetual, most likely, funnily enough. Or maybe try to take this pawn and then exchange the queens if it's promoted. But anyway, this just shows you guys that I was really walking on the thin ice. Tremendous amount of luck involved. Some draw offer trick at the end, and I did it. I drew the game after more than 70 moves of miserable fight, to be honest. Funnily enough, I really wanted this tournament to be finished because, as you remember, I lost 3 games in a row in the middle of it. And here I played over 5 hours, I believe 5.5. We were the only players left on the playing hall. So basically we were, delaying the closing ceremony and stuff. Crazy stuff. Very important game in terms of the lessons that can be taken. I can take the lesson that I am nowhere near understanding this type of structures and positions with the closed center in the Caro-Kann, unfortunately, similarly to the French, I guess. And then later on, I guess I cannot be that stubborn of a player, because I cannot just make a mistake, acknowledge it in my head, and then play like nothing ever happened and think like, oh, I'm still all right. I was not, for the most part, in plenty of those cases in here. So yeah, this is it when it comes to this game. Let's try to sum up the whole tournament. As you can tell, I lost rating 2 ELO points. So basically, I could have stayed at home, celebrate New Year's Eve and New Year's at home without chess, without stress, without playing this game of ours that we all love. But yeah, frustrating tournament, frustrating results-wise. I was on the verge of getting to the FM title. Now I'm basically back to the starting point, but it is what it is. If not the rating, at least the lesson has to be taken from it. So that's my approach, let's say. And with that, I would like to thank you all for watching the analysis from this tournament. Tough one, tough opponents, good overall level of both me and them. Obviously with some dips here and there, unfortunately, but yeah, I will take it. Lessons to be taken, and next tournament coming up. This is the round number 9 from the Krakow festival. Not long after that, I went to Prague, to Czech Republic, to still compete. I did not, resign from chess. I kept fighting. So the analysis are incoming, guys. So if you don't want to miss them out, please subscribe to the channel. And if you like this video and this festival overall, please remember to leave a like. I will appreciate it. As of now, that's it. Thank you all for watching. We'll see each other. Bye bye.